G'day, Aussie Bonsai Bloke here, how you going? Today I'm going to be working on this olive forest. Had this olive forest for a little while now. You guys seen me put it together a long time ago. And you know, it's just amazing how many trees. I used all these, you know, pretty poor quality trees, stuck them all together. There was one or two that were pretty good, but in general, poor quality trees, stuck them all together in a pot. And together, I think they've actually made something quite impressive. It's just gone through its natural defoliation, lost a lot of leaves into the pot. And I'll probably just leave them as like a natural ground cover, really. The moss in there sort of grows, sort of struggles. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's actually not getting enough light, which sounds funny, but you never know. Could be what's going on. What else? Pretty well keeping my weeds under control, so that's good. Only a few dead ones that I've got to pull out here. A few bits of wispy dead stuff. So anyway, today, okay, I've told you the history of this thing. Today, we're just going to give this thing a bit of a trim. Not going to be repotting it for another couple of years yet. You know, really let it settle in and fill out. It'll be another couple of years till it gets repotted. I'm sure already, if you lifted this up, it would just be a mat of roots. What else? I'll talk a bit more later as we work through the tree, but it was really exciting making that group. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my snips, which I'll have over the other side of the shed, as per normal. Puppy dog's chilling out on the blanket, aren't you, mate? Yeah. Good boy. Love you, buddy. So that blanket is covering that oil spill that I did when I was doing the lawnmower in the last video. Anyway, all good. It's all good. So let's get into this tree. It just looks like a mumble jumble at the moment. I'll go down a bit because you're actually looking down on the group, which doesn't give you the perspective of the forest. And we're just going to trim away. Start on one side and finish on the other. So this will be a medium length video, I think. So, pretty sure you guys are in the frame there. It's going to be a medium length video. So what I'm going to do is pretty well just chop things back to short it into nodes. Where I want things to be stronger, bottom branches or some interior branches that I do want to grow out, or some shaded ones from others, I might leave one, I can leave them a bit longer to help them get a bit more strength. And two, another thing I can do is so here we got a longer one here, and I want that one to fill out and actually come out here somewhere. So I'm going to leave that one completely alone. So we can leave them longer. I'll leave this one here longer to let it get out, get some light, get stronger. And also choose fatter branches if you've got, you know, 3 or 4 from one location. You can choose the 2 fattest branches, which will also help it. Just keep doing that around the tree. It's not going to take a long time to work on this tree. Just got to really trim it back. A lot of these trees that I used for this were already getting towards a sort of refined sort of state. I'll leave that one long because that one needs to come out and fill in and whatever else. Some of these ones on the top of this one, it's a really strong one. You can see some of these yellow leaves still in here. Okay, so we've got some yellow leaves still in there, still falling off. I've tried to work it out. See, Sam, you're not making any sense, mate. Anyway, I've tried to work it out. I reckon it drops about its 3rd year leaves most times. 3-year-old leaves drop and it keeps its, you know, 2nd year and the current year's growth of leaves. So, what that also tells me that if you were too lazy to go in and clean out some of the crotches of the branching, too lazy or had too many trees to work on, I think you could just leave it, you know, just cut the branches that you want to keep, select the branches you want to keep, cut the branches you want to keep, select the branches you want to keep, cut the other ones off, and then I believe you could just leave all those interior leaves, which will make it look juvenile to begin with, because you've got all the leaves inside of all these branches. So instead of seeing a nice branch structure like this, you'll just see a heap of ball of leaves in there, and it'll look quite juvenile for a while, but you know, in the long run it's going to end up looking the same, you know, like those leaves in 3 years will drop off, or 2 years depending on what age they are, and eventually it'll look just the same. So it's up to you whether you want it to look more tree-like, more mature at the start. If you've got time on your hands, I suggest you clean the interior leaves out a bit so that you can see the branch structure. But if you're a bit time poor and you don't really have time, I think it's fine just to leave, you know, some of those interior leaves. And like I say, anywhere from 1 to 3 years, they'll all drop off and you'll see that branch structure anyway. So yeah, so in a roundabout way, what I'm trying to say is do what you want to do, keep it simple. If you want to go to the detail of cleaning out all the interior leaves, go for it. I've still got some interior leaves in here that I could clean out, but I'm not going to. In general, most of them have fallen and it's all good. You can see here, even with me just playing with it, a lot of these leaves are just falling now. So it must have just shed a lot of its old leaves. Just cut this one back a bit harder, that's a bit long and leggy there. And it's at the top. So we'll just keep chopping around this tree, or trees I should say. Forest, bit of a forest style. Small forest, but it's still a forest. There's, I don't know how many's in this little pot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quite big trees. I'll give you guys a close-up in there later, because some of you guys might not have seen this forest. This forest, someone else might put a link in there to the old video. I'm, to be honest, a little bit lazy to link old videos into my description. I could give it a go, I suppose. So maybe just have a look in the description of this video and look for a link. If you don't see one in there, someone else might put one up. It's just that I'm a bit slack, but we'll see what happens. I might get enthused and do it, but I'm sure someone else will do it. Someone with a little bit more drive than me. Now I'm purposely not trimming the main tree in a minute, and I'll explain that a bit later. You can see how super green and healthy these little trees are. Do you know, if you go back and watch that video first, if you haven't seen it, or you want to have a bit of a refresher of it, or you want to have a bit of a refresher of that video, it's amazing how many trees got in here from the size of pots they were in. I reckon it took up this whole table that we got here, took up the whole table full of pots, and I even had some on the ground, and I managed to fit them all in this little pot. And I think there were a few comments, if I go back, that said, well mate, hope they all survive, expect a lot of dieback because you've just crammed them all into such small pots. But you know what? All these little outside trees just loving it. They're super green. They put out a super amount of growth. It's just crazy. Really green, really healthy. I've been doing a lot of fertilising this year too. Like I've probably been on the fertiliser more than I ever have. You know, I just told myself, look, you know, something's, you know, takes maybe 2 hours every 10 days. You know, make sure you do it. And even though there's a bit of a cost to it, you know, like I use a mixture of Thrive, Power Feed, worm juice, fish emulsion. Power Feed, if you're going to use just one product, Power Feed in Australia is probably it, you know, like that's got fish emulsion plus I think some chemicals, I'm not sure in it, but it's a pretty well balanced, fairly organic fertiliser. It's got a bit of a smell about it, which is good, and the trees absolutely love it. Another thing you can do too, if you don't have birds or whatever to rip it off, is use some of that rapid razor. Looks pretty close to chook pellets, you know. And just sprinkle that on the surface of your soil as well. That seems to work pretty well. But yeah, the growth, look at that growth. It's crazy. It's amazing. Some of the trees are different. I'll just show you. Okay. So this tree here, look at this one here. Still pretty tight little leaves, beautiful little leaves. Really tight, really green. And then this one here, look at this one. Because these are all grown from seed in the wild. This one here, ultra small leaves. Quite thick, woody stems on ultra small leaves and super dark green. If I pan back, look how super dark green that one is compared to that one. The leaves are small and you can see the shoots because it's just how it grows. It's got a different growth habit. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're going out digging olives. You can, in the same spot, you can get a really dark green, weird, you know, where you see all the stems, tiny, tiny leaves, or you can get slightly more of a lime green, but still really dark green. You can get that in the same spot with finer twigging rather than this really coarse twigging. But they both have their place, you know. With this one here, if you cut that back very, very often, you would end up with such a tight canopy, it would be ridiculous. And then there's one on the side here, which is pretty tight. Okay, so that one's similar to this one. And then this one here is the oddball. It's really, really dark green, just beautiful. So, and really coarse growth. But that can play in your favour. Anyway, let's get back to the video. So we'll keep on trimming. Yeah, it's just amazing how I got all of those trees into this little pot and I got no dieback. Everything's growing, everything's healthy. Just super happy. So this little one here, well, I don't think it matters where you cut it back. This is super, super vigorous. Even though it's got small leaves, you know, it's got vigorous growth. Generally, if you get something that's got smaller leaves, it's got slower growth, but not this thing. This thing's just powering along. Super small leaves. I'll show you the size leaf of this compared to the shoot on another one. Okay. Different olive. They're both wild olive. None of them are fruiting. Look at that. Here's one. Here's the super tight, small leafed one with the big fat trunks. Look at that. Bigger leaf, smaller leaf. That's still a small leaf. An olive, fruiting olive would have a leaf probably twice that length at least, maybe 3 times that length. Still small, but this one here is super small. You know, here's my fingernail. Look at that for a leaf size, just super small. So when you're out collecting, keep an eye on the leaf size, because there are variants in the whole lot because they're from seed. So a bit like the Japanese maple, you'll get a lot of variations even in one paddock of wild olives. Awesome. Right, let's keep cutting. So I'll cut off a big branch here, just to show you. See that? That's probably the 3-year-old leaves. They go yellow like that, and then eventually they just fall off, and then you're left with the green, and then obviously you come back here and chop it short, and you end up with this really dense growth, a lot of branch divisions in such a super close area. And that's why I love my olives so much, you know. Super vigorous, super dense, super small leaves. Just a super cool tree. Just super. Go down the bottom here. I'll leave that a bit longer because that one needed to get to the outside. Just keep trimming away. You can see how dense this thing is. You can't even see in that. Just super dense. Eventually it'll shade itself out, and you'll start to hopefully see some of the interior branching. It's just a super dense growing olive. Bit of a different variety. And don't ask me where you normally find these, because I just grab them off the side of the road and just dig them up, and you get all sorts. This has probably even got, could even have spider mites. It's got this fine web all over the leaves. It's so fine that I wouldn't be surprised if spider mites working their way in there, because they've got a lot of area to live in. It could be normal spider web, we don't know. But either way, even if it is spider mite, it's not affecting the health of this tree. It's just gone nuts. And it hasn't spread to any of the others, so not a problem. Not really a problem. Super dense. Yep, so Australia Day was the other day. That was a really fun video. Thank you guys for all your comments on that video. I really enjoyed reading all the comments. It's what makes it worthwhile. Now, I'm pretty sure we're going to leave that one longer. Worked our way around here. Worked our way around here. That's part of the big tree. Odd branch, still needs some cutting back. Just cut them back short so you get a good division. Don't worry about how many internodes, doesn't matter. Just cut it back short and let it regrow again. And like I say, if there's a shaded out area that you want it to grow a bit stronger, let it grow stronger. Don't cut it back. And if there's a really strong area, cut it back a bit harder. Just keep it really simple. There's no point overcomplicating things. If something's growing too strong and shading out other areas, cut it back harder and let the other area grow longer and stronger. And that's as simple as it is. And then you can balance out the health of the trees. Right. We have got to the point of this main big tree in the middle. Now, it's starting to look pretty good now. Okay, let's look at this main tree. See if you guys can notice anything. These trees here, right, around the edges, really healthy, strong trees. Now, this main tree here, that one there's a small branch off this side one, which I think actually complements it really well in the front of this main trunk. You don't want to see the whole forest, but there's that main tree in here, which is actually a 30-year-old collected olive that I bought off someone that had pretty well sold off his collection. So that's actually a 30-year-old tree. When I got it, it was full of scarlet. It's done in a few different styles. I even did a windswept, but it didn't work out. Put it in here. But anyway, by now you guys can probably see that foliage on this thing is a lot more sparse and a lot weaker. And you can see way more yellow, dropping the older leaves, but even the new shoots are not as long and strong like the other trees. So I'm going to be really careful about how I cut this back. I'm not sure why. It does seem to be getting bigger now, but over winter, I don't know whether it's more sensitive to winter, but over winter that thing looked really weak. You can sort of see that it's a lot yellower looking than the rest. Not as healthy. Old Granddad, he's struggling. But thankfully, he looks like he's getting his youth back. So what I reckon's going on is old Granddad here is a stubborn old bugger. So old Granddad, the stubborn bugger, he had a good life in his old pot, you know, just chilling out in his old pot by himself, like Granddads do, just chill out in the corner. And he was happy there. And then he got chucked in this pot with his, you know, daughter-in-law and his son in the back. And then the kids started crowding around him down here. And old Granddad, you know, made him go grey, lost all his leaves. And he's struggling. But you know what, Granddad? Give your kids and your family some space. Let them grow and be happy about it, mate. Don't stress and lose all your leaves. Just settle down, bloke. Hey? And you kids, give him some space. Let him grow. Let him fill out. Don't give him such a hard time. Make him so grey. You'll go bald in a minute. You don't want to see old Granddad go bald. Otherwise, it'll just be a skeleton sitting up there in the top. Get along, guys. Come on. You guys are a family now. Stick together. Anyway, just a bit of fun. But, you know, he was going good in his own little pot, and he didn't really love being stuck in here with all the others. But he's got good shoots on him now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop only the very strongest ones back just a little bit and leave everything else. Generally, if you had a tree like this, old Granddad here, if you had a tree like this Granddad sitting above everything else, it would end up being the strongest tree. But unfortunately for this one, he doesn't want to get along with his family members, and his family members don't want to give him the space that he needs. Nor can they, because they're chucked in a pretty small little room together. And he's just hopefully just adapting to life in a pot with his family, and hopefully his strength and vigor will come back and he'll be happy. Either that or he just didn't like the cold, because we did get a couple of -5, or one -5 and a -4, which is not too cold for some people. But for this tree, maybe it was, because, you know, olives don't like to be frozen, but generally in our frosts of -5 Celsius, most of your olives will actually get like this purpley sort of look to them and just sort of slow down, really slow down over winter, do nothing. Almost a dormancy period really, because they don't really grow at all. And then when summer comes along, all those purplish leaves turn back to a nice bright green the way they go. But this one here turns sort of yellowy looking, to the point where a lot of the leaves on this tree were actually yellow looking. But now he's come back a lot greener, and old Granddad's, you know, starting to get a bit of hair on top again. I'll give you another view from where I am here, and you'll see exactly what I mean about how sparse it is compared to the rest. I mean, in a way it sort of suits it because, you know, the old tree's the sparsest one and the one most struggling to grow. So here's a really strong dark green one. These other ones are super strong around the edge. Okay. And then we got Granddad. So let's go from the small ones. Here we got probably mum and dad over here. Maybe a teenager here and the kids down the front. And here you can see through that tree pretty easily. You can see my hand. You can see through the tree. There's a lawnmower over there, sad, sorry thing. Anyway, I've ordered the part for it, so the part's coming and I'll be able to fix it. Okay, so you can see it's a bit sparse, but it's okay. It's still okay. The new leaves on it are quite green, actually pretty good. Not doing too bad. So guys, if I'm going to be super critical about this forest, you can see here we got Granddad, the little ones down the side here in the forest. All the different little trunks, that's cool. That's probably the best part of the composition. I really love having the big old tree with all the little ones underneath. Especially this branch here. I know you're not meant to fall in love with one branch in bonsai, but I do. I love that branch slash trunk there that just sits in front there like that. Just beautiful. And then all the other little grandkids hanging out the side there, just looks beautiful. Love that. Super critical though, I would probably say that this is nice, looks nice. You get around the back and the strongest tree in the whole pot, certainly the fattest trunk by far, is in the back. So I'm going to call that one Dad in the back. He's strong and youthful. And, you know, it's probably okay because from the front you don't really see him much. Sort of hidden back there. And anyway, who's to say in a forest that the biggest tree is not at the back anyway? Like you, right in the back of the forest hiding out, could be Dad getting away from the kids. And he's got the fattest trunk. And anyway, one thing I'm really proud of is this guy here, the teenager. He's had a bit of a battle scar back here, live vein down the side. And anyway, when I planted this one in the pot, it was super weak, thought it would die because it had to share all its room with everything else and it barely had any room. And look at that, that's the canopy. Still quite small canopy compared to the others, but it's starting to assume its place in the group, you know. This tree back here is quite nice. So yeah, biggest tree in the back as far as the fattest, not the tallest, but the fattest. Then we got that dark tree there, and then Granddad, gone a bit yellow, but still doing all right. He's sort of shooting back nice now, so let's see what happens there. I'll leave this long one here, let it come out the front a bit. Yeah, just super happy. So you can imagine, so here we go into the middle of the forest here. You can imagine camping down here, setting up your tent, looking up all these trees around you, and just camping in there and relaxing. I wish I could really get me camera in there, but you can imagine camping in there. Just beautiful. All these big trees around you. Be pretty awesome. Cool. Give you a spin on the way out. Maybe a bit of a close look in there, but we already did that, so maybe not. Give you a spin on the way out of this tree. Been a bit of a fun video, something different. You know, I've talked a bit of nonsense, but you know, it's all in fun. Okay, let's do a spin. No worries. Cheers for watching Aussie Bonsai Bloke. Please like, share, subscribe. Tell your mates about the channel. Get the word out there. Aussie Bonsai Bloke channel. And I'll keep on making these videos. Cheers And I'll catch you next time. Appreciate all your comments and stuff and your watching. And I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Cheers.